So this is the fourth round of the 2007 World Championships. In this match, I go against Urandasar Ancibia of Cuba. He was a rival of mine. He had many wins. He was one of the best players in the world at the time. And I gave him a good fight, and I had beaten him 10 years before this at the Junior Pan American Championships in Cali, Colombia. And I didn't know he would go on to such heights. And at that time, I really wasn't worried about anyone. I was really good, and I was almost in my prime when I was 17. This was before I went to wrestling. So I took 3.5 years off of judo subsequent to beating him and being 17 years old. And I went and wrestled at Nebraska. And when I came back, Ancibia was an Olympic medalist and world medalist already at that time. So I kind of skipped over my prime, where I could have probably reached higher heights if I would have continued through just doing judo straight. But I have no regrets. I like the fact that I wrestled and I got to experience grappling in a different outlook. But this kind of match, as you'll see, it kind of shows like he has the poise and the experience that I just didn't have, even though I was a crafty vet myself. He had medaled in 2 Olympics and 4 world medals. He was at the height of the division. And even though, as you'll see, I'm beating him for most of the match, he uses some kind of old school Cuban tactics and settles the match down, has an injury late in the match, slows the pace down. And it's too bad I got this video with no audio, but it's just, I'm glad I have it. But the whole crowd, I don't know, maybe 8,000 or 9,000 people were chanting USA as I was beating him. So it was a pretty, I don't know, at the time it was probably one of the most intense moments I had on the mat. On the other side of the bracket, moving on to the semifinals and finals, was the Brazilian fighter who ended up winning and beating Urandasar Ancibia. So the whole crowd is rooting for me because they want to see the Cuban lose, because he's the #1 ranked player in the world, and João Derli from Brazil was the #2 ranked player in the world. So they wanted to see me knock off the Cuban just because they didn't love me. I think they just more did it for selfish reasons. But nonetheless, it was a great match and experience. As you'll see, it's a close one at the end, and let's get into it. Here we go. Left on left. I'm in the white gi. Urandasar Ancibia in the blue gi. I had a good opportunity to feel him out at plenty of camps, which usually didn't go so well for me. But I was able to kind of figure it out on game day here, where I was able to kind of make some moves happen that I normally wouldn't take chances on, based on, there's kind of nothing to lose. So I played tactically to kill his right arm. So right there, every time I kill his right arm, I'm able to kind of force him into a bad situation. And this turnover that I was working for, I won my previous match with. And the ref just doesn't like groundwork, like most judo refs, which is sad. But, I'm starting to get a good understanding of his tempo, and I just want to increase it and push him and make him looking to break him a little bit. So I had me and my coach, Jason Morris, had the plan to just keep killing his right arm, even though it's hard to throw from there for me. It's just something that I knew I could kind of make his game nullified, which he has some of the best throws on planet Earth. Sode Surikomigoshi, Ippon Seo. He's really known for his Sode, and I think we'll get a look at it at some point in this match, sadly. So I'm always circling to my right and coming forward, trying to be a pressure player here, kind of more aggressive, more of a wrestling strategy, at least in that first half, until I could kind of start to slowly break him, changing levels, making him kind of react. He felt really firm and sturdy. He's from that Cuban system, and I don't know, sometimes PEDs were used, I'm sure, within his upbringing. I'm not saying, that he did it while we were competing, but it's just kind of well known that the Cuban players and Cuban system, they are really strong. So Ancibia had a really good way of slowing matches down and then taking one big shot. And all he really needs is 2 or 3 a match, where I knew I had to kind of win the inches. So I'm trying to attack, mix great grips up, and I should have been attacking on the ground more. You know, it's easy to say 20 years later, 16 years later, but you know, from a standpoint now of where I am, it's hard for me to even know who that guy was. You know, I'm thinking really offensively and kind of closed-mindedly probably. Now that I've trained in a lot of different disciplines and I see like a little bit broader of a spectrum, sometimes I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? I did have good groundwork, good newaza for a judoka at this time, but I think my application could have been a lot better. I could have definitely slowed things down and tired him on the mat. Instead, I got right back up and trying to get more standing exchanges. But, you know, for the 44-year-old I am now compared to the 27-year-old I was then, I think I could have done more on the ground. And maybe even stolen a win, which isn't out of the realm of possibilities, especially for, like, what I know about Uranis Arancebia's ground game. When I beat him in 1997, which was 10 years before this, I threw him twice really cleanly. And I feel like I was just going for that same kind of outcome, but I felt really strong in these gripping exchanges. So the one thing I do not want to do against him is give up ownership of my left hand. He has a really strong right grip on the sleeve and he's able to throw from it. And so the whole match I'm doing really good at that. And I think with about a minute left he understands some tactics and he slows the match down and makes it so it's difficult for me to kind of get my bearings because he has a minor injury and he takes full, advantage of that. So I think I'm definitely the stronger player with my hips here as far as like a solid base. I wish I would have pulled the trigger a little bit more, maybe combinations and using my feet to uchimadas and being able to hit maybe one-handed taios. But I stick with this one-handed approach where I'm trying to kill his one hand. And there he does a bad attack. And I think actually they penalize him and I'm winning. Yeah, he gets a penalty for a false attack. So I'm winning. If the match were over right now, I win. So now he's coming forward. He understands he's losing. And there's one of his attacks. I mean, one of maybe three. So he knows how to take his shots and play a match. He has so much experience. I think on like the judoinside.com database, he has the most matches of any international player I've ever seen. It's like somewhere upwards of like 400 or 500 matches. So he was on the tour for, 14 years maybe, where I was only on the tour for like 6 years. So I got out, at a young age and I skipped over for wrestling. So I really, it would have been, if I would have moved on into the quarters and semifinals, it would have been, a little bit unexpected, whereas if he moves on here, it's more expected. Just tough because I feel like I was right at the same level as these guys. I just needed those opportunities, and between injuries and just moving away from the sport of judo because of wrestling, I feel like some of my best years were missed. I was always kind of recovering. There's his second shot, so he's taken two shots throws within 4 minutes. So he's really not using his whole gas tank, even though he's showing it. And I think at this point, I remember the whole crowd is cheering USA. Because on the other mat next to me, João Durley of Brazil is competing and winning and just won. So they look over to my mat, and everyone's seeing the score, and they're seeing what's happening, where this is very hard to do against Uranis Aranceibia. As far as being up on the scoreboard, deep into a match. The match is 5 minutes. Now it's only 4 minutes, so I think I would have won this match just based on the time allotment of a match nowadays. And this is just a pro move. There was no blood. There was no nothing. He calls for the doctor. He's able to kind of get this all worked on. And I remember this lasting a good 4 or 5 minutes. So it wasn't... Just it kind of took the wind out of my sails. Right now, I remember Jason Morris yelling as loud as he could because the crowd was so loud. He's like, same game plan. Make sure to go to his right hand. Which it was, my kind of like, at this moment, I remember the hairs on my body were standing because there was just a lot of adrenaline. And this is a big moment. I still wake up to nightmares and sweaty dreams over this moment. That's going to happen next. So I hadn't seen this footage until maybe 2 weeks ago, and this was 2007. So I received this footage and was pretty geeked out to watch it. But right here, my left hand, if you watch my left hand, the whole match I did not give up the grip on my left hand. And I don't know what happened here. Just like the fog of battle, war here, he's killed my left hand, and I know something's different here. I have a feeling something's coming, and I'm trying to break it, and I can't get it across. I can't break it, and whammy. A beautiful Sode Surikamigoshi for a Wazari, a half a point. Which at this point, there's like 30, 40 seconds left, and he's done what he needs to do. It's really difficult to build off this. So my goal is to just keep moving forward, and let's see how this match plays out. But again, more injury time. It's really difficult when the tempo gets disrupted. And right after he did this, he scored. So I had him waning and maybe breaking a little bit, I feel like. And the 3, 4, 5 minute break that he got for his sweat in his eye, as you can tell, I'm not bitter, 17 years later. But I think this was a very important match. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. With that kind of moved aside, I think if I win this match, I'm in the top 7 at the World Championships at least. So that qualified me to be an A athlete, which at the Olympic trials would have set me up a lot better than it did when I was in the Olympic trials the next year. So I'm looking off balance. I got a good off balance on the foot sweep. Here he is circling, getting a new start. I mean, like I said, he's kind of a pro in this realm, keeping a lead. It's very difficult at this level to come back, especially against Crafty Vet, who me and him are the same age and had 2 completely different careers, where in the beginning, 10 years before this, I beat him. And then I had a lot of trials and tribulations. I had to come back from injuries, 4 ACL reconstructions. So, and I give it to him. He scored on me. I didn't score on him. So the winner, I think, with all things being equal, the person who scored should win. But the way he wins sometimes, here especially, where I'm all over him, moving forward, I'm juking my grips, I'm coming at him. Nice double leg though. It's frustrating. So this is one of those matches that I wish I could have back. Here we got 14 seconds left, and I'm thinking, like, what do? I just need one big move, and it's hard to move someone with such good base and evasive moving backwards. So he's grabbing my leg right there, 2-3. So now he gets a second penalty. One more penalty and we're tied. So the way judo used to work, each penalty accrues a new score, and he has Wazari and I have a Yuko. And in this 5 seconds, if I disrupt enough, maybe he gets another penalty, but I guess no penalty. So like I said, the right person won as far as, like, if I'm coaching and I have to talk to an athlete, well, hey, you got thrown. So I don't care what kind of hustling and penalties you were able to accrue against your opponent. That's just from, like, a standpoint of the better person winning. But it's still frustrating as an athlete because I did a lot of work to get a bad result. But I accept it, and it was part of my growing process. But he definitely was at the height of his career at this point. And I feel like a few twists and turns within my career prior to this, I could have had a more successful, fruitful career with what I had accomplished. And, everyone has regrets. So, but this match was kind of like a tent pole for me as far as, like, what I could have done in the sport. This is the 4th round of the Worlds. I made it the furthest of any male at this tournament that year. And the Worlds used to be every 2 years, and they used to only take the number 1 from each weight class. So it's a little different than now. After 2010, they started having a Worlds every year, and they would invite the top 2 from every country. So there would have been more chances. In my day, you didn't have that many chances at a world title or medaling at a Worlds. So it was a little bit more coveted. And I feel like I didn't get that many chances. I was in the 2005 Worlds, and I'll have a match breakdown of that coming. But, I just want that one back. It's an old one, but, I get a little sweat break watching it. In this match, I'll be going against Carlos Figueroa of El Salvador. He was a Pan Am rival of sort. He was a Pan Am finalist. Pretty good competitor, but I beat him usually every time we competed against each other, but I had to kind of watch myself. He's a lefty, and things are different, left versus left, where we're on the same side, where our lead legs are close, so kind of anything can happen. I had a pretty good run in this tournament, the 2007 World Championships. So let's get into it. So this is the third round of the 2007 Worlds. And we are off. I'm in the white gi. Left versus left. I'm looking to control the left hand of my opponent here rather than against like Arn Sibia where I was looking to control the right hand because it's a little bit more of a defensive tactical strategy I took against Arn Sibia. But here I'm looking to throw. So I want to kill my opponent's lead hand, his strong hand, to kind of maim him. And he has pretty good hips, so I'm not taking a big shot right away. I don't want to like, whoopsie, your Worlds is over. So I'm getting a good feel of kind of like probing with feints. And I still do that in my no-gi game a lot. But here it's like two-handed grip. So the upper body's not moving as much. Where I'm trying to get my shots in here, I take a little Yoko Satemi Waza, like a side sacrifice. Just kind of getting a good feel. We're about 30 seconds in. I want to try and kill my opponent's left hand, circle to my right. I think the last time I competed against him, I threw him with a left Uchimata for Ippon. So he's probably onto that a little bit. So if I show a big Uchimata, he might be ready for a counter, like a step over or a Sakashi. So I'm kind of going to take more of a tactical approach, especially, you know, at the World Championships. I'm not trying to step out of my comfort zone early in a match until I know something's a little bit more locked in and sure. There's a few exchanges in this match where the cameraman kind of misses some of the action, so we'll kind of play it by ear. And in this case, too, I'm definitely trying to win on the ground, if I remember, because it's just a good way to like minimize whoopsie moments where you know, you slip on a banana peel and the tournament's over. So you have a lot of risk versus reward in some of these standing exchanges. So I remember trying to like, okay, how are we going to get this to the ground? I shot an Uchimata even though I felt like I wasn't going to, but I did. Okay. He came in for a little side sacrifice. Looks like I'm trying to... Okay, so here's my little turnover. Kind of like a roll through scarf hold that I'm able to stick him with. Here's a pin. So if I hold him here for 20 seconds, I win. And kind of like jiu-jitsu where you pass their guard, but here you have to win by pinning him for a while. So you get I got a minor score here, but I'm looking to transition to a side triangle, a Yoko Sankaku, which was one of my go-to moves other than an armbar. So here I'm pinning him again. And in this case, I'll probably try and settle in and finish this thing over the next 20 seconds where I like to kind of pull their foot over my head and kind of Indian burn their body to turn their upper body one way and their hips another way so they can't turn in or away. And I'm not looking to really choke and burn my legs out and choke him with my legs. I'm just looking to stick him. Just the 20 seconds. If it was jiu-jitsu, I'm definitely looking to squeeze and get the finish. But here it's just settle in on top, get that Ippon, which I just got, and move on to the next round. So it's a pretty quick one. About halfway through the match, I stick him. So just keep moving forward at these big events where you know you have possibly 7 matches or 6 matches, 128-man division. So just keep moving on. That's the goal. If you feel like you're getting value out of these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. And now back to the video. All right, this is the second round of the 2007 World Championships in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm going against a rival who is really young and talented, and at this point, the sky was the limit for. He'd beat me twice in the finals of 2 events that were on the tour internationally. And I was kind of lucky to get him as an early round draw because someone like this gains steam and you never know what can happen as a younger judoka. I think a lot of times when you get older, you think about plateaus and maybe sometimes, at least in my head, it was hard to beat people that were supposed to beat me. But when I was young, I never worried about that stuff. And he was kind of at that age where I was 27 at this point. He was a full 10 years younger than me. So let's get into it. In this match, I had a good weight cut at this tournament. So an early round match, usually for me, I had to get rid of my opponent quick because I just didn't have the reserves. But I remember doing a really good weight cut and feeling pretty good to be offensive for a good duration of time for a full match. So he is if I'm not mistaken, we're both lefties. Yeah, so everyone I'm fighting at this tournament's a lefty. Left versus left. I'm looking to do the same things as normal. And in this first exchange, whammy, I thought the match was over. I yelled fuck as loud as possible because I thought my Worlds was over. Because that was a pretty hard fall. Let's look at that real quick. I come in for kind of a Kouchi with recklessly with a high grip first exchange, and he just dips down for a knee pick and plants me. Little back trip on the far foot too. Good thing it was on my side, so I have second life. But I'm down by a quarter point of Yuko, and I have a lot of time. So sometimes this is more tiring for the person who's winning. Early score, long amount of time, where I'm going to be playing the pressure game and going to be attacking a lot more than them. So sometimes, even though it would be more draining on the attacker, sometimes psychologically it's tiring. So here I'm looking to get more of a high grip, a bully grip, and dominate both sides of the body and have my attacks. So I have a lot of foot movement, and I remember he had a really good right-handed grip on my left sleeve every time we fought, and it was difficult for me to break that. So a lot of times with lefty, that's my biggest problem. And I had a lot of experience with lefties. I usually beat lefties just because my brother's a lefty and Rhonda's a lefty, and these people I grew up training with were lefties. So Jenny Pedro's a lefty. All the people I looked up to and trained with were lefties, so I was usually better against lefties. So I could throw, it's just biding my time. And at this level, you only get so many opportunities to attack and to have a good opportunity to throw in these exchanges. Because people know when they're in trouble and they bail. They'll fall down and do a bad attack. So it makes it difficult. There's a good little oil check by me. I think I went two fingers deep. And Newaza takes time. So when you're losing sometimes, it's like ADD offense. It's like ground is more for when it's tied or you're winning. On your feet is when you got to get back up to your feet to make those scores happen. Even though you can't score on the mat. And I look at that now as a coach, and it's like early in a match, take those opportunities for transitions. But as an athlete, I have a sense of urgency. I got 3.5 minutes left. I got to score. I'm losing. I think I remember about halfway through this match is when I really started to take over and lead the dance. Where here it's a little bit more mutual. Where some of my attacks I can't find the footing. He still has a good base and good energy, so it's hard to be able to penetrate his shield and force field. But once I kind of get him to breathe hard and I sense his diminishing output, and that's something as an athlete, as a combat sports athlete, all that the best in the world can do. That's a sense of what their opponent and how they're fading or they're coming on. And this is during the day where you can do leg grabs. And I do appreciate that style of judo more than today's judo. So I was able to kind of mix those two styles in where, I change levels and I go down to the legs with my hands. But right now I'm just showing some kind of desperate attacks. And that one was a bad Samoa entry where I kind of bailed. I hate watching myself for one. So this is just an exercise in kind of discipline and patience. I've kind of separated myself from who I'm watching because I would have done a lot of things different, I think. Other than, I have a good sense of urgency, but the quality of my attacks sometimes I'm judgmental on. So here it's just hard to get in. He knows when he's out gripped, he's down on his knees. It's hard to kind of find my shot. So I got a little over 2 minutes. We're about half past the halfway point of the match. So I think I start turning it on here just knowing. There's a good Sasai attack. There's a good Uchimata attack. Okay, I rocked him. I know. I have a feeling things are starting to sway into my favor. So, and I think if I remember correctly, looking at him breathing and the way he's walking is like, okay, this is when I got to make my mark and make my move happen. So there's another good Morote Seo cross grip attack. So I'm getting my attacks in. It's just hard to side ref is looking to penalize for non-combat activity. So I'm only down by one penalty or a Yuko. So there's a good Kouchi attack. I'm looking off balance, and there's another Uchimata, little back trip. See, I've sensed him fading. His head's down. I'm able to own his head with that bully grip where he can't really look up, so he's very limited in his attacks. Now I just got to find my throw. And I think it's coming in these next few exchanges. At least my gut feeling as an athlete here as I was competing. Here's how to do a little side sacrifice. And the ref, that wasn't Ippon. He attacked after me attacking. It was more of a bail on his part, but I didn't earn that throw, so they take that away. But I'm chalking that up in my head like, okay, I'm just getting closer and closer. So I, as an athlete, as a coach, I could have been like, hey, that was Ippon, let's end that match. But as an athlete, okay, I got to wipe that off and I got to score. So here I'm looking to use combos Sasai, and there's a nice Soto Harai combo where I was able to capitalize and score Ippon. Let's take another look at that score, that finishing exchange. So there's the exchange before it where I won, but then they took it away, and rightfully so. I would have much rather gone out winning the way I did than that. So I sense his kind of flat-footedness. He's not coming forward. I'm able to kind of use 2-3 moves together here with a little Sasai attack. I kind of show my hip, then I do Sasai, and then my Harai Goshi. Yeah, it was more of a Harai than an Osoto. I mean, I don't know, people on the internet might say otherwise. Yeah, Hane Goshi seems to be the one everyone likes, even though I don't call any moves Hane Goshi. It's either Uchimata, Harai, or Osoto. But yeah, so that was the second round of the World Championships. I remember being pretty stoked after that win, but 128 bracket. I moved on from 64 to 32 in that match, so it was just about moving on. But yeah, it was a good little highlight reel throw as well. So that was that match. So this is the repechage round. So it'd be I got pulled through with my loss to Arin Sibia as he made it onto the finals. So now the battle would be to get the bronze medal. This is the match to get into the top 7. Tough opponent, junior world champion, Zindrinidis of Greece. I think he was actually Georgian. Like a lot of players from Georgia, there's only one athlete from each country that makes it out to the world. So a lot of the number 2, 3, and 4 athletes kind of scattered to different countries, and Zindrinidis did that to Greece, as well as one of his teammates, Iliadis. So the Greek team was full of Georgians. So this match didn't go well. I think in my head I was thinking, well, this guy's more of a wrestling stylist where he goes down to the legs and does leg picks and pickups. So in my head, when I go against this type of athlete, I'm looking to use more Japanese judo to throw. So I think I could have probably wrestled with him a little bit because my pedigree was really high in that realm. But I used to like to kind of like yin and yang my matches, where if someone's a high-level Japanese judoka, I'm going to wrestle him, and vice versa. So in this case, I was looking for more like real throws rather than maybe going down to the legs and fireman's carries and double legs, which I probably should have, with retrospect and watching this match, make it dirty and find my way on top rather than like classic textbook moves. But it's hindsight's 2020. So in this match, it doesn't go my favor, but it was part of my journey and my 2007 World Championships. So made it to the 4th round. Got pulled through repechage, was looking to medal, and this was that round of repechage where, unfortunately, my day comes to an end. Pretty formidable opponent. He was a junior world champion, high-level pedigree, Olympian. Just like everyone at this tournament, at this level. He technically is a righty, but I think he's more of a lefty. So he stands right, but was attacking left. And as you see, like I prefaced, he's doing a lot of grabbing, dropping techniques, and here I think I'm passing his guard, and the referee stopped it, and that's just judo for you. It's ridiculous. I want to watch that again, because I am 3 seconds away from passing his guard and pinning him. And I'm not just saying that because coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's just literal translation of the exchange, where I'm passing, and the ref says, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop that. I'm 3 inches away from side control, where if I hold him down for 20 seconds, I win. And I think he knew that, and something happened down there, but it's frustrating. 17 years later, I still care. So he's standing like a righty, but technically he's a lefty, I think. So, like that. That's a left-sided grab. So that kind of threw me off a little bit, and there he is. He's just grabbing and running, very wrestler, kind of, fugly in my opinion. But hey, judo is judo. At this point, at least, it's kind of a amalgamation of wrestling and sambo and judo, the way it evolved before 2009 when the rules changed where you can't grab the legs. It's just part of the game, which I should have been a little more keen to. I should have been aware of that. And he keeps grabbing my legs, and I'm looking for upper body stuff where right here, it's over. Match is over. Just a little like outside carry. Super frustrating, and it's something I should have been a little bit more keen to. I don't think I really ever got my hands on him at camps training. So it was kind of like my first touches of him. And I think I would have been much more aware of his offense if I would have, it's not now. This isn't 2024 where everything is available online, where you can find out in 30 seconds what this person does. It was more like, what was my experience with him? What did my notes say? And I had notes on all sorts of players, but I never got my hands on Zindrinitis. So, tough one. I really wish I would have kept two hands on better, maybe controlled sleeves rather than lapel sleeve, been able to down block and sprawl and treat this more of like a wrestling match with gi. So, yeah, you live and you learn. You got to be able to take those losses and learn from them, but it's really difficult at the time because this is kind of the Super Bowl. Every couple of years you get an opportunity if the number one in your country gets to go to the Worlds. So it's just a bummer that kind of ended that session for the morning session, and then the later session is the medal matches. So I missed going for that top 7 by just that round, which, out of 128 athletes in a bracket, which I had the biggest bracket at the event, it was a tough pill to swallow being done, having a little bit of steam, making it through the first 3 rounds, and then running into a buzzsaw like Urandasar and Sibia. But yeah, that was my 2007 World Championships. Hopefully you enjoyed it. So reflecting on a big event like the 2007 World Championships makes me kind of like see my competitive life as a whole. If I'm like taking that as a microcosm, where I was just outside of the bubble of, the medal winners, and I had beaten world and Olympic medalists within my 8-year career on the tour, on the IJF. But I ran into a lot of injuries, and it was kind of a fractured path. I really didn't have the opportunity to build off of experiences and then work my way to the top. I was hampered with a lot of knee injuries, and I'm not using that as an excuse, but it was difficult to like build momentum and snowball into that top 5 group. I was always just on the periphery. And choosing to wrestle in college was kind of a big hurdle in my judo at the time, because all the other athletes from around the world, they didn't take time and do a different combat sport and then try and come back into their main discipline. It was just like they're on the world team for their country for a good 2 quads or 3 quads, so 8 to 12 years, and they stay that course, and they improve incrementally, and they work their way to the top, or they stay at the top. And I had that opportunity when I was 17 and 18. I was, I think, one of the best judoka on the planet. I was just in between weight classes. So when I was 17, I was the number 1 for the Olympic team and number 2 for the Olympic team at 60 kilos. And I had a lot of momentum moving me forward, but I was just a little bit too big to hold on for 2 more years to 60 kilos in 1998. My brother was the number 1 at the 66 kilo division, right above me. So in my head, I wasn't beating my brother. And I made like a long-term decision at that point in 1997, 98, when I was the number 3 wrestler in the U.S. in my weight class in high school, to move on into wrestling for at least a 2, 3, 4-year window, and then come back for the 2004 Olympic quad after I'd finished wrestling, which I did, based on the fact that I couldn't suck down to 60 kilos for a long amount of time for that 2 more years. So I kind of like washed my hands of judo for a while and went headfirst into wrestling. And I think that kind of obstructed my development a little bit, even though in the long run, like I said, if I take this as a microcosm where I really didn't reach my full potential, I think as an adult and a coach of combat sports and multiple disciplines, MMA, no-gi jiu-jitsu, gi jiu-jitsu, judo, all these things kind of work together. But if I didn't choose to wrestle in college and get that high-level experience and be around people who prospered and teammates and colleagues that moved on to the Olympics and were training partners, and I was the number 1 wrestler in my weight class and varsity letterman, and I did really well, I don't think I would have been able to take the confidence and experience into my coaching when it comes to no-gi jiu-jitsu, MMA, and these disciplines where I needed my wrestling references as kind of a roadmap. So if I would have just stuck with judo, I probably would have stayed a little more insulated within that paradigm, and I wouldn't have been able to kind of jump into different disciplines so easily, because I'd have been pretty like hardened to within sportified judo rather than seeing the bigger picture. And as a coach, I'm thankful I did with the way I did it. But watching these matches, I think it was tougher for me from a confidence standpoint and experience standpoint to beat someone like Urandis Arencibia. Even though 10 years prior to that, I was ascending quicker than him. And, you know, I can extrapolate a lot of information just from one match, but a match 10 years prior to the one I lost to him, I dominated him. I threw him twice, once for Wazzari, once for Ippon. And then within 3 months of that match, he won the Junior Worlds, when I had already decided I think I'm done with judo for at least a 4-year period. So, you know, some coulda, woulda, shouldas, but on my journey, I think it was the smart play.